Alright guys, Kyle Laster here with ACC Crappie Sticks. We're down here Enid, Mississippi, fishing today with Shane Johnson. He's a tournament fisher down here, fishes with us, uses ACC rods. He's using a 16-foot rod today. And we are out open water Livescope targeting crappie. And he is chasing down crappie in open water. And when I say that, I mean these fish are literally moving around and he is having to chase them down with the boat and catch them. I've caught fish live scoping in open water, but not quite like he's doing it. So we're gonna stick with Shane here. He's gonna show us how we target these fish and chase them down here in Mississippi.
Hey, my name's Shane Johnson here on Enid Lake. Fish with Magnolia Crappie Club, do some tournament fishing here. We actually have a tournament tomorrow, so we're out here today pre-fishing, trying to find these fish, and they are scattered all about, so we're just having to try to run them down, live scoping, try to find the bigger ones that we can. It's pretty challenging. The wind's picked up, but we're going to try to do the best that we can. I'm looking out at 50, 55 foot and see that this appears to be a pretty good fish, so as I get closer, I'll zoom on in, see what size he is. If I think he's good enough, I'll try to catch him. But even at 30 feet, he's already starting to run. So you just have to stay with him. Gets within 20. All up in here. Had him and didn't really know it. I don't think that's one on there. Sometimes I look on here and I look for the most faint ones. I call them ghost fish. Those tend sometimes to end up being the bigger fish. You can barely make them out on the screen, and if you stay with them, you make out the fish, and they usually turn out to be a good fish. There you go. Boat flipping with the 16 foot.
There you go. Nice crappie.
Out here pre-fishing the lake on Enid Lake. We have a tournament tomorrow. What I'm doing is just checking different spots because I know tomorrow the wind's supposed to be coming out of the south. So I want to check these areas behind the hills, behind the trees, where I think it might be able to get out of the wind, and the boat will be more settled. I'll be able to catch more fish, hopefully bigger fish. You just have to travel different areas of the lake, but just trying to know ahead of time which way the wind's going to be coming from seems to help out. Just pre-fishing. That's really what part of pre-fishing is. It's not only about the wind, but looking for the fish as well. All right, so sometimes out here people talk about, well, what do the fish want? Do they want a big bait or do they want a small? To me, there's two things: profile and presentation. So a lot of times I start off with a larger profile, a bait this size, and I try to fish with it, and if the fish are attacking it, man, I stay with that. And then sometimes they get a little finicky. You may have them swim up and just like put their nose on the bait or look at it, swim off, to me it's time to change. I may change the size, so I'll drop down to a smaller jig. Still basically the same color, but I go to a smaller profile. And if they like it, again, I just keep going, fish and fish until they get to where they're not biting it. And if they start like they're just gonna nudge it or not paying it much attention, I say, hey, I gotta change something else. So then I may go down to a hair jig. Now this one has a little bit extra long tail on it, which I found that the fish seem to like it, but this is just a small 16-ounce hair jig, basically the same color. But a lot of times when you change that profile to those fish, you'll see them start to attack it, and that's what I'm looking for. I like using these ACC 16-foot for single poling for several reasons. Man, they've got the backbone to reach out to 16 foot. You can boat flip these fish with it. The biggest thing to me is because they're so light and you can hold that 16-foot rod. I use it all day long. To me, that's the advantage of using them. They're great rods, not to mention the great customer service with them if you need the extra rods or tips sometimes. I think they're the best rods on the market. Pretty good.
There you go.
I use different size weights from time to time. Sometimes it's a little black slip weight, and I'll put a stopper on it. Or especially if the wind's not blowing, it's a calm day, the fish are real shallow. I want to ease that bait in, but I need just a little weight other than the jig head. Especially if I'm using a smaller jig, I need it to get down a little bit quicker, so I add those smaller weights. Depending if what the wind's doing or how deep the fish are determines on what size weight that I use also. I use a 1/4 ounce weight, and that's probably the average size that I use. But if the wind's blowing pretty good bit and the fish are pretty deep, I'll go up to the 1/2 inch size just to get that jig down there as quick as I can, because with the wind blowing and the boat moving, it's just so much easier with a heavier weight to get that jig to drop down there quicker. And I use a rubber weight stop, just feed it through the weight, and it secures my weight. My weight never moves, so it stays secure all the time. Today we're using this 1/2 ounce weight because the wind's blowing pretty hard. There's white capping out here. The fish are around 14 foot deep and the water is 20 to 22 foot. So we need that jig to get down there as quick as we can to get in front of the fish. Still using the 1/8 ounce head, number 4 hook. That seems to be what we're working today, or what is working today. As a beginner Livescoper, I would say that one of the key things to do would be make sure that when you pitch your jig out to the fish, you pitch out in front of him, way out past him, and let the jig drift back to him instead of dropping right on top of his head. A lot of times the fish like to see it at least a foot over their head instead of touching their nose. So keep it up above it I think is a key to it. And try to figure out which way that fish is facing, because you always want to put it in front of his face. If you bring it in behind him, a lot of times those fish will spook and you've lost that opportunity. You may not get that opportunity with that fish again. So try to pitch it out past them, let it drift down over and try to keep it about a foot over their head to start with. And then if you need to just jiggle it a little bit, sometimes that will entice them. But that's just what I found that works good for me. If you guys are ever down this way in North Mississippi, feel free to stop by and visit us here at Enid Lake. We have cabins available at Rustic Rentals on Enid. Check us out on Airbnb or VRBO. We also have a guide service, Longbranch guide service. Feel free to give Tim Howell a call. We'd be glad to get you booked in. You have your place to stay and great fishing. Just give us a call.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us down here on Enid. Open water, Livescope crappie fishing. Down here with Shane, been ripping them today. I mean, he showed me a lot of stuff. I've been using Livescope for a while, and he showed me some stuff that I didn't even know you could do. These fish moving on, and he's cruising 3 or 4 miles an hour and catching them. So I had a dang good time. Nice to meet Shane. Nice to get out here and catch some fish down here. We're gonna get back at it, but that's gonna do it for the video today. And we'll see you guys on the next video.